everyone. Daniel here from the Next Issue podcast on a very special stream tonight. Um, as Before I introduce all my guests, I this week we had a really interesting book come out called Ultimate Invasion from Marvel Comics, and I really wanted to talk about it. So I grabbed a whole bunch of people that know way more about the Ultimate Universe than I do, and we're gonna get into it. So I'll let them introduce themselves, and I'll start with CJ. You want to tell us a little bit about? Let's do our plugs up front too, because I know a lot of people sometimes drop out at the end of the stream. So tell us a little bit about yourself, because you're also meeting Mike for the first time. So
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Collier Jennings. My friends and fans call me CJ. I am a writer for Collider, AIPT Comics, IGN, and that hashtag show. I also am a longtime avid comic reader. For 2 years, I used to host the Spire themed podcast called Into the Spirecast. You can find me on Twitter at CJ Writes Things and on Instagram and TikTok at CJ Writes Stuff, or I talk more comics. So, yeah.
great, Mike. Could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. My name is Mike. I'm the host of the I Read Comic Books podcast. We are a comic book podcast that's been running since 2015, where Danny is also a regular on the show, as well as 12, I think at this point, other people, or we rotate 2 folks every week to talk with me about different comic books from all sorts of different things. You can find me on the internet at Mike Rappin for the most part, or at To Comics. But I'm usually not on Twitter or Instagram. I'm very off social media recently, but you can find me every week on the I Read Comic Books podcast. You can listen to our show on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. And you can check us out at ircbpodcast.com.
Great. And for the first time on this channel, because we've had Mike and CJ in the channel before, Josh, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Name's Josh Espinoza. You can find me on most platforms at Comics and Dogs. Twitter's probably the most reliable, but as like everybody else, we'll see how long that lasts. Infrequent contributor, but long time, comics Twitter, fan, engager, community member. Love to support other folks, including, Danny, CJ, and Mike at their various efforts. So excited to join the conversation for the first time, and I think like everybody else here, ages old comics fan, been reading since I was, 8 years old. So excited to dig into, kind of the latest iteration of one of my favorite childhood comics, getting back into the Ultimate Universe.
And that is a great segue for the first question I have for you guys. So we'll go around in reverse order. So we'll start with you, Josh, this time. Tell us a little bit about your history with the Ultimate Universe. Like, what were some of the books you read and, kind of that stuff?
Yeah, my introduction to the Ultimate Universe, I missed out on kind of that first wave of like Spider-Man, X-Men books. I wasn't really reading books at the time, but kind of caught up, probably what a lot of other folks did with that Ultimates, #1 debut. It was like 2003, 2004. Kind of the whole, like, we're finally doing the Avengers, we're finally, trying to make this as kind of hardcore as possible. The Brian Michael pitch, art was fantastic. So that was definitely what sucked me in. And then it was kind of, trying to get everything I could to, backfill the story on what's going on with, Ultimate Peter Parker, Ultimate X-Men, all those guys. And it was pretty much, just reading everything from there.
You got a particular favorite book from the Ultimate line?
I'm loving today's conversation. So we're going to be talking about Jonathan Hickman's work. My favorite stuff from the Ultimate line is some of the stuff towards the end when it gets weird. Those Ultimate Avengers when Hickman was on the book for a bit, still some of my favorite. And obviously, we're going to get into it a little bit later. But some of those characters, content that he was delivering at that time is, really what's coming back into focus. So I'm super excited about it.
That Ultimate Thor run was amazing. Like that little 6-issue miniseries that he did was just like blew my mind when I read it. Oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
Nice. Well, Mike, tell us a little bit about yourself and the Ultimate Universe.
So I'm a longtime X-Men fan. And I was always looking for, like, when I started to really get into comics, I was like 16, 17 years old. And I was looking for like some new X-Men beyond like the Grant Morrison new X-Men, because I'd read that. I loved it. And I saw this Ultimates thing, and I went to Barnes and Noble and grabbed this big compendium of the first 6 volumes of Ultimate Spider-Man. And I devoured that. Like, I was skipping math class to read comic books. Like, that's where I was in high school. I was like, just pulled out this huge tome of Ultimate Spider-Man and I was reading it. Fell in love with that and decided, you know what? I can get in on the ground floor of all these volume ones because I didn't really understand how comics worked back then. And I was like, I'll buy the volume one of everything. So I got Ultimates Volume 1, Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate X-Men, Ultimate Fantastic Four, and I was in on all that stuff. I think I was a few years behind, maybe 2 years behind, but I was up to date. And as soon as those trades came out, I was getting them from Barnes and Noble. And so I read everything from the beginning of the Ultimate Universe, including stuff like Ultimate Daredevil, all the way through Ultimatum. And I think I picked up some stuff beyond that. Like there was, again, that Jonathan Hickman stuff. As soon as I got that name in my head, I was like, anything with his name, I'm going to pick up. Before Warren Ellis was a bit more problematic, I was picking up everything with his name. So I was grabbing everything that he had put out in the Ultimate Universe. And then, of course, I heard about this Kirkman guy because I was reading this Walking Dead book as well. And he was doing Ultimate X-Men, for better or for worse, and I read all of that, right? But yeah, everything basically from the beginning of the Ultimate Universe to Ultimatum I was really into, and then I kind of fell off, unfortunately, right before Miles became a character. But yeah, I was very into it. So all the early Ultimatums or Ultimate stuff I was really into, including like the Hickman or Mark Millar stuff with Ultimates and everything. So yeah, I know a lot about the early parts of the Ultimate Universe.
Interesting that it's kind of a different time than Josh. So
Yeah.
CJ, are you gonna fill in those gaps? Or I feel like CJ might have read everything, but CJ, how are you with the Ultimate Universe?
I started really getting into comics around when I was in high school, and my library carried some, and among them were like the first 4 volumes of Ultimate Spider-Man. That plus J. Michael Straczynski's Spider-Man run was what got me into a Spider-Man fan. And I was like, "Ooh, this is so good!" And then I found the Ultimate X-Men run, and I was like, I was blown my way because I was like, "Wait, Wolverine is working for Magneto, and what's it called?" And yeah, it just went from there. I was just like, "This was way different from the Marvel universe I knew," and I kept following it. Mostly Ultimate Spider-Man, but also Ultimate X-Men on and off. When Bendis was on the title, I really followed that, and also Brian K. Vaughan, and also Ultimate Fantastic Four I liked. Um, and then I dropped off around Ultimatum. I was not a huge fan of that, but then I picked up when I learned about Miles Morales. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. And then, yeah, and then I read it up to, and also Hickman's stuff, like, he did, Ultimate Hawkeye, Ultimate Thor. Just, this guy was just, doing so much crazy stuff, and I followed him to Fantastic Four. And then, yeah. So, yeah, I had read, it's a like, woo, woo, woo.
Yeah.
Kind of like a wavy line. Wavy line, basically. So, yeah, that's my history of the Ultimate Universe.
Well, like I've said, I'm not very familiar with a lot of the stuff. I do remember reading a few things that turned out to be tie-ins to like regular Marvel stuff. So like if any of you read the Marvel Zombies, you'll know that the Fantastic Four, the Ultimate book, actually tied in. And that there's a character there that we'll come to talk about in this book, because there's a through line for them. But yeah, so I read all those tie-ins with Marvel Zombies and the Fantastic Four, because that's kind of where things started.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also read some of the Spider-Man whenever I guess 616 Spider-Man would have to go to the Ultimate Universe and hang out with Miles. Like I read some of that stuff.
Nice.
And then just everything kind of leading up to Secret Wars and the destruction of the 616 universe. There was a few times there too with some of the series. So that's really it. Only when I've been forced to read Ultimate Universe, I've really approached it.
Wait, so you don't care about this at all, is what I'm hearing, Danny. You don't even care about the Ultimate Universe.
Not from this side, not from the Ultimate side. I will say a lot of the X-Men designs are really cool. I find them really cool. Like I think all the character redesigns look amazing. So I would like after hearing you guys talk about the ones that you enjoyed, like I do want to maybe dive in more, but there's so much, and there's also like maybe so much that could be garbage that there's not enough time to sift through everything. But yeah, it's definitely a very interesting time in comics that you would have this completely alternate universe. So
yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into the actual book that we want to talk about. So we will be doing full spoilers for Ultimate Invasion. I was gonna say Ultimate Universe. Ultimate Invasion #1 that
Ultimate
came out this
Power,
week.
Ultimate Squadron Supreme. I mean, which one do we want to talk about? There was a dozen timelines. Sorry.
Yeah. So real quick, let me talk about the creators because I think that's pretty important, uh, especially what they kind of bring to the table. This was written by Jonathan Hickman with pencils by Brian Hitch, Andrew Curry on inks, Alex Sinclair on colors, and letters by Joe Caramagna. And a quick synopsis here for everyone that's watching or will watch later. The transformation of the Marvel Universe begins. Superstar creators Jonathan Hickman and Brian Hitch team up. The Illuminati must form once again, and that's kind of where they hooked me for this nonsense. But they must team up once again to stop Maker from his plans to destroy or perhaps rebuild the universe, with Miles Morales at the center of it all. And yeah, that's really a lot of what we get in this first issue. Oh, I'll correct that in a minute. Yeah, it's I mean, let's go back around. CJ, we'll start with you. What did you think overall of the issue before we get into the details?
I have always been intrigued by how Hickman builds worlds. Like this guy is thinking on a whole other level. Like if you read his Fantastic Four stuff, or the Krakoa era of X-Men, this guy is constantly building upon stuff and setting up concepts. Even when it's like setting stuff up, it's interesting, and that was the case here because again, it's touching on a lot of stuff he did with both the Ultimate Universe and the mainstream Marvel Universe. You had the Illuminati coming back. You had they're touching upon the destruction of the Ultimate Universe and Secret War. It's like Hickman was sitting back with all that history and using it to build something new. And I like that Hitch came back because Hitch was like, again, a huge architect, especially with the Ultimates. Like, again, this guy kind of had a huge influence on, the design of the Ultimate Universe, which in turn influenced the design of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, if you go back and watch the first Avengers, there are panels that feel like they could have been illustrated by Hitch himself. So for
Totally.
these guys who had a hand in the Ultimate Universe to come back and bring it back was really good, and I loved where they're going with it and how it ends. And you're just like, I got to have more. But yeah, that's what my thoughts on it.
Now, Mike, this was on the top of your pile from our latest episode of RSCV. But what did you think? Was it worth your $9?
I mean, was it worth $9? No, absolutely not. No comic book, no single issue of a comic book under 70, 80 pages is worth $9 as far as I'm concerned. This is Marvel just like punching us in the face and saying, you can't do anything about this, sucker. But from a reader perspective, this was really cool. I love the idea of the Maker, right? Like I know that I fell off the Ultimate Universe after Ultimatum, but like I was aware of the Maker because anything that Jonathan Hickman does where a character has a helmet on, I'm on board, right? Like let's think about this. So it's a really cool character and obviously a sinister version of Reed Richards is really cool. What I think is interesting is that, I love the idea of the Illuminati, probably one of my favorite things that came out of the Bendis era of running the Avengers way back in the day when he was writing New Avengers. And so to see them all come back together for this thing where they have to fight an evil version of Reed Richards. And of course, they pull in all of the cool stuff from the current Marvel universe on the whole. Like this really reminded me of the stuff that I like about the Marvel universe, and that Hickman is one of those creators that is able to pull in everything to make a relevant and interesting story. I'm not saying that other creators couldn't, but like I feel like CJ, you said this, like Hickman has this idea of like really big stories, bigger than we could ever think of. Like if you look at his Secret Wars run, you look at his Fantastic Four run, you look at what he's done with Krakoa, like he clearly knows how to pull in a lot of continuity garbage and make it into something that is just a really tasty morsel for us readers. And with Hitch on board, like this is a beautiful issue from beginning to end. I'm like, this is peak Big Two comics in the best ways. And Hitch is clearly the best artist they could have gotten for this. So I'm really glad to see them come back to do this new Avengers story because Hitch started that Ultimates run. I'm really excited to see this new era with his art on board.
All right, Josh, what did you think of the issue overall?
Yeah, no, I just gotta, agree with Mike, in terms of Hitch being on board. I think that was a huge, part of why, this just felt seamless in terms of being Ultimates and very clearly an Ultimates book, but also something completely new. And, with that Jonathan Hickman edge of I don't really know what's going on, but I'm sure it's going to be fine, and I'll understand it by the end of the run. Which is, I think an experience a lot of readers have with these types of books. But I think it's it does a great job of capturing a lot of the kind of energy of the Ultimates, especially out of the gate with kind of even just the heist scene. Like there's a part of me that was like, this is Jonathan Hickman writing a Mark Millar book or Mark Millar book. It's like it's action packed. It felt like something straight out of like 2005. With the Hitch art. And then, we got to something more cerebral, something where I had to, open the Marvel Wiki, on my computer side by side and be like, is this something that he's referencing? Is this a new thing that he's inventing? Like, at a certain point, I had to, give up caring and just, enjoy the story. But, I agree, it's everything that I want out of a big two book in terms of, being exciting. And also not getting too bogged down in the weeds, Well, especially when we talk about like the Illuminati, Secret Wars. These are stories that Hickman built over, multi-year, incredibly complex, plot arcs, a lot of detours along the way with, different event tie-ins. And, he drops us right into the action without worrying too much about answering all the questions in the background. As a fan, I'm really excited. Like, I love Hickman writing Black Bolt. Black Bolt's not a character we get to see that often anymore. So I'm, whatever we get out of him in this arc, I'm really excited to see what happens. And it's fun to just see, I think, Hickman clearly playing with some toys and some characters that he's always enjoyed, kind of picking them out of even kind of current Marvel obscurity and, giving them a time to shine again.
Great. Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, as far as my excitement level, I went ahead and put together a stream to talk about this book, so you probably know how I feel about it.
You
but
hated
it. Yeah. Real quick in the chat, we'll definitely talk about the Illuminati. Kev. And then we'll also talk about Spider-Man because there's a lot of Spider-Man in this book, which I really like, and I'll talk about why I really enjoy that. But let's talk about, I kind of broke this up into a few parts. So we kick off this issue with like a mercenary group, right? And they're entering this facility. We don't really know exactly what's going on. We eventually get a diagram, which is very Hickman in the middle of the page. And we discover that the one that is in this black box facility, whatever, is Reed Richards from the Ultimate Universe. And boy, Brian Hitch does such a good job. Just like this is one of the pages I pulled, but there's so much more. Like just that whole and like opening scene looks really cool.
He's so handsome. I mean, he draws such a handsome Reed Richards. Like I can't get it out of my head. It's crazy.
Yeah, he doesn't look super evil,
right?
But man, like immediately after he opens his mouth, that he's like 616 Reed Richards already kind of worrisome, but this dude like completely takes it over the top. And at this point, just kind of feel free to chime in as we go. But like this heist was really fun. Like just this whole thing, this whole sequence up to like him kind of walking out of this vault, which I think I have. Yeah, right here. Oh
it's
my
pretty
God.
Brutal. Like this.
I was like,
go ahead.
I was like, oh my God, what the heck? But also, I'm just like, this is totally something only Hickman could write and only Hitch could illustrate. Because if you read those early Ultimate issues, Hitch was playing with some great body horror, and this. Because again, the idea of a guy who can stretch his molecules is fairly disturbing, and they do that. So yeah.
When he mentions the DNA, I was like, oh, something weird is about to happen. Because he had to get all these specific people, and then kind of the way he unfolded that, like just by talking to like all the therapists, that he just kind of made them do that unconsciously. That's some like Hickman level, like 3 or 4. Like he just loves doing that kind of stuff where it's like 5 or 6 steps ahead of what you think that's happening.
Yeah, it's the classic Hickman, like gears within gears, right? Like Reed Richards is clearly playing the biggest game, right? I think we see throughout this whole issue that this evil Reed Richards, this maker character, is playing a humongous game. And I think even Iron Man, all the characters in the Illuminati, they talk about this, about how this Reed Richards is playing a game, like he's being obvious with these redundancies and these power signatures and all these different things, because he knows that all these characters in the Illuminati are going to catch on to him because he's trying to prove a point. And I love that the way that Hickman writes this character is that he's so obvious, and it's obvious to us as the reader, but it's also obvious to the characters, which means that there's something crucial and critical going on here that we have yet to be revealed. And the fact that this is only a 4-issue series blows my mind, because I felt like we got a lot and also nothing in this issue as to where this story is going to go, which makes me very, very excited as a reader. Like, I know I paid $8.99 for this issue and I'm very mad about it, but if I have to pay another $8.99 for 3 more issues, I'll do it because you've got me hooked. And I'm super mad about that. I'm like, I told myself that I wouldn't do this for these types of comics, and yet here I am buying this issue for $9 because I just got to know. I can't wait for the trade on this one.
I'm right there with you, Mike.
Yeah.
Let's see. Man, the body horror on this one.
It's a lot. It's quite a bit.
Like,
Yeah.
look at this stuff.
And I think choosing to use this as kind of the intro to the book made a lot of sense, because if there's one thing that I think especially the Ultimate Universe got kind of known for, and then around the Ultimatum era kind of criticized for, was kind of leaning too much into that 2000s era, like hardcore, everything's got to be gruesome, everything's got to be hyper violent. And
yeah,
I thought that this struck a great chord where it was kind of the intensity, the malevolence that we're getting from the Maker character. Ultimate's always going to have that vibe of like, what if it was all the heroes you love, but with way less of a moral compass? And there's kind of a no character where that's scarier than Reed Richards, smartest man in the world depending on the time frame, and letting him go fully unleash a plan that he's been working on clearly for years, I think was a great choice to kind of get us in that intensity, give us a peek at that body horror, and then move the story along into the the next element without getting bogged down in it.
Yeah. I pulled specific pages that just kind of really caught my attention. This one was one of them because not only the angle at which Hitchman does this panel, it's very askew. This is, I think, him going into Cerebro, or I think he goes into like some kind of facility or Cerebro or something.
Mm-hmm,
like this is where he's leaving the clues for the Illuminati. But I love this panel here, and then they're all wondering. This is when we get the reveal of like the band's back together, right?
Man.
Which we hadn't really seen, I want to say, since
Secret Wars.
Yeah.
Secret Wars, yeah.
Right?
The last time we saw this group was they were trying to stop the incursions, and like clearly they suck.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's just like they were slipping down that moral slope, and it's fun. It's funny because it kind of, if you guys have read New Avengers issue 1 by Hickman, it opens with Reed saying everything dies, and to hear that from a leader of Fantastic Four is just like, oh my god. And it's funny because that's the inverse of the Maker. He's trying to bring something back to life. So I really like that parallel.
So that issue is one of the whenever I started reading comics and I opened on my first pull list, that New Avengers title with the Jacques covers, that was one of the first 5 books that I added to my pool.
Yo,
it was kind of the fresh start. I do want to address this question: why is his head shaped like that? It's just a helmet. He has a regular shaped head.
If you read Hickman books, people are going to wear helmets. That you just got to get used to that. You just got to get
exactly. Look at what Xavier's rocking a new Cerebro on his head. So
yeah,
right.
Yeah, if you go back to the on that one, it's kind of funny. If you go back to the Hickman original Avengers, I don't know if they ever really kept it around, but the original reason is that it goes back like that is because being Reed Richards, he can expand his brain, his body into whatever size he wants. So it was always this idea, like, how can Reed make himself, smarter? Well, let's get a weird xenomorph. I love that, xenomorph looking helmet on us, and then use that to basically extend his skull out like a foot and a half back. So
somebody said he looks like a xenomorph, and I think that's the first thing that came to my head when I saw that helmet. But also, aren't xenomorphs like the coolest thing you've ever seen? Where's the problem? What's the problem here?
Yeah,
exactly.
Also, very glad to see Black Bolt. I don't know when the last time I saw any Inhuman other than Kamala was.
What happened to the Inhumans? Did anyone know? Admittedly, I've not been keeping track of the Inhumans. The last thing I read was the Saladin Ahmed Black Bolt book, and then who knows, right? I have no idea what happened.
Well, okay, I can actually answer that. In the Death of the Inhumans series by Donny Cates and Ariel
Shout out.
Olivetti, most of the Inhumans were kind of genocided by this being named Vox.
Vox.
Some of them did
Okay.
survive and managed to, as we see, make a new colony, including Black Bolt and Lockjaw. Because again, if they killed Lockjaw, I would have rioted.
I think we all would have.
Yeah.
But I mean, this 4 panel layout of like this dude just walking into everyone's like kingdom like it's his house.
Yeah.
And what really got me was the last one here, right? Because we know these gates, like Hickman set up these gates to only be used by mutants.
Yeah.
So it's very Hickman of him to be like, well, but this one guy I'm writing can also do stuff to them.
Yeah. He loves to
And-
I mean, if
set up
anybody can figure it out, it's Reed Richards. So
Yeah. I was going to say, Hickman really likes to set up these rules and then establish them in a way that they cannot be broken, and then immediately find a way to break them. Like, that's comics 101, I think, at this point. Like, if you've been reading comics for long enough, you know that any rules as written are bendable and breakable at will, depending on the editor or the publisher. But like,
Yeah.
I feel like the Krakoan gates were really rigid. Like, a lot of the Krakoan stuff was like significantly rigid until Hickman decides, well, maybe things are a little bit bendier than I thought. So it's interesting to see that come up in this issue.
It was 616 Richards who figured out how to stop somebody from being a mutant with his son.
True.
So it would make sense that the other Reed Richards would figure out maybe how to make somebody appear to be mutant for the gates. So, it's all there. We just, well, I guess that was Chip Zdarsky, but still, it was all through the stuff.
Yeah.
Also, the Atlanteans got it the worst, I feel, because they're the only ones that actually suffered casualties that we see on the panels.
Yeah.
Right, everyone else is like he just kind of walked into an empty room. I'm sure there's carnage that we don't see in the panels, but like the Atlanteans feel like they took it the worst. And what the Illuminati are concerned about the most is that he's grabbing all these things that are redundancies, right? He doesn't need 2 gates. He doesn't need like 2 of the staff or whatever. Like he's grabbing like 2 pieces of each thing just to, as they say, leave kind of his signature behind and get them all back together. Because I guess technically they're kind of the ones that destroyed his universe. All the way back.
Kind of, right? Like, can you blame the 616 universe for saving itself when in the situation of like it's us or them? I don't know, right? Like,
I mean, you can if you're from the other universe.
I know. I don't know.
All right. Any more Illuminati stuff before we move on to what I think it's probably my favorite part of this series?
I have like one complaint about the Illuminati. So this is kind of a problem when Hickman does these big books in general. Like, don't get me wrong, I love all this stuff. Powers of 10, House of X, some of my favorite comics from the last decade easily. However, just like Powers of 10 and House of X, all of the characters are written the same, with the exception of, I think, the Reed Richards of 616 and the Maker. Right? Those are the 2 distinct characters in this. Everyone else is written in like this really wooden way. I felt like I was just reading dialogue that could have been said by anybody, especially with the Illuminati. There's 6 different people on the Illuminati. Anybody could have said any of the lines that were there and it wouldn't have made any difference. And so to me, like, this whole issue kind of felt really wooden in that regard. But otherwise, this issue was great. I just like, that was the only thing that kind of got under my skin about this. Is like, why do you even bring the Illuminati in if they're all going to sound the same? I don't know. Yeah. That was just my one little gripe about the Illuminati, I guess.
Yeah, we didn't even get one Imperius Rex. So like, what's
the
point of bringing them more in?
No Imperius Rex. I'm doing this point.
So I was gonna look up how many of the Ultimate Universe characters kind of moved over to the regular 616, but I didn't. But I mean, we know Miles is here, right? And I do like how subtle but not subtle is like how Miles really now belongs to this universe, because the Ultimate Universe characters, they normally speak in lowercase in their lettering. But Miles used to talk in when the book first launched, he still had the lower cases, but now he, I guess, acclimated to this universe, and his dialogue is the same as everyone else's, which I think it's a really, I hope it's intentional, and maybe I'm just putting a lot more. I don't think they would let something like that slip
Mhm.
because the maker is the only one that still has the lowercase.
Mhm.
I was gonna say subtitles, the word bubbles.
Yeah.
But I like that he went to visit Miles. I feel like that makes sense because it's like they're kind of kin because they're from the same universe.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
so
I,
kind of give him a chance.
I
Uh,
thought
but
this was a cool moment, but it felt almost like out of character given how violent Reed Richards or the maker had been in the previous couple of pages. It was like all of this crazy stuff he was doing, and then he's like, "Hey Miles, I'm going back to our universe. Call me if you want to go." And he just disappears. Like it felt, I understand why, right? Like they're the only two people left from the Ultimate Universe, but it did almost seem out of character for him to care about somebody else. Like I don't know if anybody else got that same vibe, but that just it felt a little weird to me.
It felt like the maker kind of, feels very manipulative to me. So I feel like he has grand plans for Miles. He's like, okay, I'll win the kid over by being charming.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But I also love Miles's role in this book because, again, at this point, Miles has become big again. Two big movies to his name. Has become a fixture within the universe, and
Yeah, there was a
has
whole
become
civil
the
war that we.
Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Has become the Spider-Man for a generation. So of course he would play a huge role. And again, it also makes sense because again Hickman utilized him well in Secret Wars because again, reminder, Doom's plan fell apart because Miles gave the Molecule Man a hamburger.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
so I love that Miles is coming.
Yeah, to be honest,
I love that.
that's actually how I read the entire interaction. It's like they both, their fates were sealed by their various interactions with Molecule Man. I think the Maker gets undone basically in kind of the room that he's living in because he never has food, and then of course also betrays Reed, and towards the end of Secret Wars. So it was kind of funny where there's a part of me that's like, thinking like, does the Maker, like, is he just jealous of Miles that, like, he actually got set up with a nice new life? Everybody came out of the Secret Wars kind of liking him, and
yeah.
everyone in the entire multiverse just hates the Maker now, and everybody thinks he's kind of a
Mhm.
creepy guy. So it's interesting to kind of see those two spiral out of that story and kind of be polar opposites of each other. Um, and I did just do the little quick search, Danny, just because it's always been an interesting point. I think as far as Secret Wars are concerned, those are the only two characters that made it out of the
Okay.
Ultimate Universe. And then if you were reading Ultimate X-Men comics at the time, there was this whole other weird group, namely Wolverine's son, who came over and hung out in the
That's
16
right.
Oh yeah.
universe for a few
That's
years.
right.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
Yep.
I think Hickman has maybe wisely swept that under the rug with the whole, redux of Krakoa and the entire X-Men
He was
line. But
well. I think he was just in a book. He was just in a Wolverine book recently when the whole family got together. They brought him in. James, right? His name is James. I
yeah,
think
Jimmy Howlett, yes.
Jimmy Holly.
yeah,
Yeah. I think I believe I just read him in something because I had to Google like who the hell is this guy that has Wolverine powers, but it's not Wolverine and it's not a clone. Uh, interesting.
yeah.
I mean, it makes sense that you would bring a Wolverine. That's Marvel's most popular character, so you want to have as many as you can. Now this book is broken up into two big chapters. So obviously, the first chapter is going to end up with like the most bombastic superhero fight, and I
Yeah.
think this is where Brian Hitch just like really rules as an artist. Like so many different characters, and everyone's like in a different pose. Like just all this stuff. I this is some of the stuff I love the most about the issue when you can really get down to it. And like, yeah, it's a big superhero fight, but I don't know. It's just kind of cool to look at all the little details. I don't know how long something like this would take to do as an artist, because these are both. I think this is just a small panel, but the other one was a double page spread.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is where I realized that Brian Hitch is the guy to do this type of stuff.
Yeah.
Hitch popularized what is called the widescreen effect, like in the Ultimates as well as the Authority. Like he drew the kind of big bombastic stuff you could only see like in a big blockbuster movie, and
Yeah.
that's kind of what it feels like a big sci-fi movie. Only you're reading it in your hands. I love that. I love
Yeah.
how it kind of underslides the scale of what Hickman's script is going for. And again, it calls back to when this thing was kind of fresh and new, because again, nobody ever been trying this in comics. So to see it again, you're just like, oh my god, this guy is on a whole nother level.
Yeah, I was gonna say the big huge splashes in this book reminded me of those Ultimates pages, right? Like back in the day, Green Goblin just barreling over the Washington D.C. with all the Avengers as well, or I could say all the Ultimates and Peter Parker there on the scene. Like such an amazing moment as a comic fan to be able to read this huge situation that's happening on the page, and Brian Hitch doing it in a way that really no one else was doing at the time. And this is reminiscent of all of that, exactly what CJ said.
Yeah. Now, and one thing I noticed with this one, especially going back and looking at some of the old Ultimates books, is it's something he talks about on social media a lot, which is he's really kind of worked to simplify his style. I think if you were a reader in the mid 2000s, like one thing that was always painful, I mean, it's painful to this day, is comic delays, because art just takes time to make it look as good as you want it to be. And I think a lot of credit to Hitch for capturing that same type of widescreen energy that CJ's talking about, but you can tell he's simplified his work. He's really kind of putting the effort where it matters. And that's always exciting to me, because it's like, great, these things are going to ship on time. Like I'm going to be able to hear the story, and by the time we're at issue 4, I'm not going to have to go back and be like, what happened? Do my whole reread. So so I think it's a great, as far as the nature of comics coming out monthly, I think it's a great middle ground that they found.
Yeah, I will miss though the 10,000 hatching marks that he had on his older books, and all the very, very specific shadowing that he used to do, because that was one thing that I think blew my mind about some of his older books, is how detailed those books were. Now, these new books, I feel like without the extreme level amount of hashing and all the other stuff that he used to do, doesn't really change anything as far as like my reading experience goes. But like, if it means that the books are going to come out on time, I'm happy to have that slight difference in my books. Totally on board with that, Josh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I also think it's very telling that there's only one inker on this book, so that means all the pages were shipped on time.
Yeah, that's
true. That's the true tell. As I was just reading an old Captain America book, and Romita had like 3 different inkers all throughout the issues. That's how you knew that there were some delays there. Another really cool page here is this little conversation, and I think goes back to Mike's point of like, I think Hickman just loves writing dialogue for both Richards.
Yeah.
The maker and Reed from 616, and he asked him a question of like, I'm pretty much like, would you have killed me or would you have kept me around if that was your choice? And Reed tells him like, yeah, I would have gotten rid of you.
Yeah.
And he just says, I'll keep that in mind. And that's the most ominous thing that I think you can hear from the maker as he kind of leaves. And then we get this, superhero shot. Very, very cool stuff. Like this page, I was like, yes, we nailed it. This is the superhero landing shot for the issue.
Totally.
There is an epilogue, and we'll talk about it. But what do you guys think the maker is like? I don't know. What do you think his plan is? What does that mean? That last line.
I think that he is going to try and recreate his own universe and overlay it over the 616 universe. Like that's what I feel. It's just like, you guys kept me locked up, and you flat out admitted you will kill me. So I'm just going to get rid of you before you get the chance. And I'm smart enough to do it. So yeah.
No, I definitely agree. Especially when he was putting the machine together, and we kind of got that final design, and got to see what it all looked like. It had a lot of Infinite Crisis energy for me, which obviously on the other side of the aisle, but it's kind of coming around that same time as early Ultimates, and it's we got to get all the coolest stuff in the universe together to rebuild the universe we lost, and. Same kind of story. So I think there was a few just kind of fun visual nods to to the other side, and And I agree with
It-
CJ.
It's
I
fun.
think it helps
It's
add
funny
to,
because sorry.
no, go ahead.
It's
Go
funny
ahead.
because Secret Wars more or less felt like Crisis on Infinite Earths Marvel Edition. So you might be onto something.
if you zoom in, you can see Quicksilver running inside the machine.
No, you know, it's funny. I was kind of thinking the same thing of like Reed is trying to like overlay his universe, but I think the epilogue here speaks kind of to two possibilities in my mind. One, Reed is either going back in time and trying to undo the existing universe, right? Like, I think we're going to see in these subsequent 4 issues, like what are the 4 key moments over, or at least 3, right? Let's think about the 3 key moments over the 616's like history. I think it's Galactus coming to Earth, right? Peter becoming Peter Parker and Captain America becoming Captain America, right? Like those are kind of like the most pivotal things because Iron Man doesn't become Iron Man without Captain America, right? Namor doesn't exist if there's no mutants somehow. Black Panther, I don't know what happens to Black Panther, but like looking at the various Illuminati, like
Yeah.
how can you erase those existences in order to prevent the 616 universe from becoming the 616 universe? Alternatively, maybe Reed is creating, or the maker is creating this new universe, but he's getting rid of all other superheroes but himself, and he becomes like this demigod. It's very much like a Kingdom Come type of situation. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
So those are my 2 thoughts. I do like the idea of him like overlaying and replacing the 616 universe with the Ultimate Universe, but I want to throw out some other ideas just to see what you guys think.
Yeah, I think you're onto something with kind of course correcting on the 616. I was going back, once we got to the epilogue, and it's that classic Peter Parker's about to get his powers scene, and I was kind of thinking to myself, I was like, this isn't how I remember it happening in Ultimate Spider-Man. So I went back, took a look at Ultimate Spider-Man 1, took a look obviously at Amazing Fantasy 15, and I was like, oh, this feels like 616. It's not exactly the same. It's more genetics. It's not radiation, but it's clearly much more. He's with Liz Allen. He's, I think you're onto something there where it feels much more of like, what if we edited the 616 universe from kind of like an Ultimate's perspective? And who knows what that means? I'm excited to find out, but. It feels much more like that than just going back and recreating 1610 from the ground up.
Yeah, I was getting Sam Raimi vibes from that whole moment, right? Like that
Yeah.
very much feels like a Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, which I'm very happy that they went with.
Now, Josh, I'm glad you did the extra homework, and that means I got the right people on this panel. Because I was gonna ask, because I haven't read the Ultimate Spider-Man stuff, so I don't know how close this sequence of like him being at. I mean, to me, as somebody that's seen the cartoons and stuff like that, like all of this kind of checks out, but I didn't know in the Ultimate Universe how close they kept to that I guess the original origin of Spider-Man. How much that changed for the Ultimate Universe.
Well, okay, so in the Ultimate Spider-Man, the spider is actually genetically engineered by Norman Osborn. He puts it full of this wonder drug called Oz, and it does bite Peter, with the caveat that half his class sees him. How they don't put together 2 and 2 that the kid who got bitten by a spider is also running around in red who spider pajamas. I'll never know, teenagers, but yeah, it like Josh said, it is very close to the 616 with a few key differences. And I was just like. That made me go, oh my god!
Yeah, and we get also a very cool shot to close out the issue, which I don't know. Can Neil Patrick Harris play the Maker in the live action?
No, Danny, no,
Actually,
absolutely not.
I think he can.
Actually, you guys are gonna think I'm weird for this, but I kind of saw what's his face? I kind of kept thinking of Matt Smith whenever I think of the Master. I don't know why.
Ah, interesting.
I can see it.
That. But we need to stop putting Matt Smith under so much makeup and helmets.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we get to the end and that's it, right? Spider-Man doesn't get bit, and we don't know what's going on.
What a cool ending. I will say I had no idea where this epilogue was going to go, and it totally hooked me. Again, Marvel can beat me over the head with this $8.99 price point. I know the next issue is not that much, but like I'm almost willing to get in for that amount. Like that's where I'm at with this issue.
Yeah. It's definitely good entertainment, and this is one of the reasons I love. Sometimes summer events they hit good like this, and sometimes they don't. So I'm glad this is one of the good ones. Uh, before we move on to the surprise, is there anything y'all want to talk about to close out the Ultimate Invasion part of this? Uh, I mean, we kind of went through almost every page in this book, but I'm just very excited. I love a lot of
I actually do want to mention one thing if you guys see the credits page, there is a special thanks to Donnie Cates, and Cates actually did set up the seeds for Ultimate Invasion in his Venom run because the Maker played a huge part in that.
Yep.
And he was trying to rebuild. And when he does go through his dimensional portal, he finds the wreckage of the 1610 burst. So yeah, the seeds were set there, and I think that's really cool for Hickman to acknowledge what came before, because again, But yes. If you guys want to know more about it, read Cates and Stegman's Venom run, because it's good comics and it kind of sets up a lot of what came before. But yeah,
it's a lot of fun. I think it's I love that run. I love the run before that but this new one I'm still not super hooked on. This latest Venom, it's a little too sci-fi for my taste. I want my Venom to be a little more extreme. But that's
Danny,
probably
Spawn is published every single month. You could just go read Spawn. It's fine.
That's true. All right. Well, great. Now to kind of close out the show here, let me set this up. Marvel put out a really interesting thing, and I know we're all big X-Men fans, X-Men readers. So why don't we take a look at the Fall of X official trailer from Marvel to close out the show?
Oh dear.
I say we do that, and then
If
we
we
can
must.
all. Come on, Mike. They put out, a lot of people work really hard on these trailers. I assume.
Listen.
I mean, it's. I feel like we're lucky now that they're associating Fall of X with the Hellfire Gala, because at least as scary as everything is, it looks amazing and everyone's doing their best. So, so I'll take it.
All right, so let's see. Hopefully, I put the sound on correctly. Let me know if you guys can hear it.
Good.
Okay.
You know, it'd be better about these images if I could just look at them. I'm just saying.
Oh shit!
Okay. Finally.
Exciting.
Why? Okay, I can get on board with this. Again, why? Who's writing Jean Grey? That's the question I'm wondering.
Louise Simonson is writing Jean Grey.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a promise. I'm excited.
Who's writing
the wedding?
Realm of X?
The wedding of the century.
Why?
Oh yes.
I'm actually pretty pumped for this one too. The Uncanny Spider-Man. Look at all those books you have to buy.
I refuse to buy all these books. I refuse.
That was great. I love looking at these stupid trailers. They're so much fun. Let's
Yeah.
see. I do want to just before we close out. Let's look at these titles. So we have. I stopped sharing the screen. 1 second. There we go. So we have Alpha Flight.
Yeah.
I don't. Well, here, let me put you guys on the screen. Just give me a thumbs up or down if you think you're gonna at least pick it up. If you think you want to pick it up or not. Alpha Flight, probably not. Okay. Astonishing Iceman,
Yeah. Double thumbs
Yes.
up. Yeah.
Children of the Vault,
Yes.
Oh.
100%.
Yeah.
Dark X-Men.
Anything that's
Hell
called
yes.
Dark X-Men, I'm picking
Absolutely.
up. Come on. It's got Gambit in it, Danny. I'm picking it up.
What is this other one? Immortal X-Men. I mean,
Yes.
if Kevin
Yeah.
Gunn
Yes,
is on
definitely.
it.
Very
How do you
good.
not pick up Immortal X-Men? Yeah.
Now, Uncanny Avengers, bringing it back from the Marvel now.
I will definitely check that out.
No.
Yeah, I really like that team actually. Invincible Iron Man, I'm already picking that up anyways.
Oh yeah, I'm on board.
Probably, yeah.
Jean Grey, I
Yeah.
definitely want to check
Who's
it out.
writing? I gotta try the.
Louis Simonson is writing Jean Grey.
I'll
And-
probably try the first issue. We'll
Mike,
see.
you might get to update your
Yeah.
Phoenix website one
I
more
know.
time.
I know.
So,
Yeah.
Realm of X is a new one. I
It's
think that
prob-
looks
I want to check out.
That's probably
Sounds
Teeny
exciting.
Howard is my guess.
yeah.
Teeny Howard continuing her run. Yeah.
Swords.
Yes.
Maybe I'll check it out, but I haven't been reading the Captain Britain book.
Yeah, me either.
X-Force.
X-Force is just a continuation of one of the best X-Men books on the line
Yeah.
right now, as far as I'm concerned.
All right.
I have to get caught up, so I may get caught up before I pick it up.
Uncanny Spider-Man. I mean, come on.
2 thumbs all the way up. It's Kurt Wagner dressed as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey,
I like
That
the
is
concept.
insane to me. So of course I'm gonna pick that up.
like, what if we take the most popular, one of the most popular X-Men in Nightcrawler,
and then
And
then
fuse it with
Spider-Man.
one
Yeah.
of the most popular characters, Spider-Man.
My
Um,
only ask is they give him web shooters. I just want to see what Nightcrawler can do with some web shooters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's going to be glorious.
Let's see. Wolverine still ongoing, but
Yeah.
whatever
don't
the
pick up
With the crossover with the Vengeance, so that should be fun.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then, what is this book? X-Men? Oh, this is just a regular X-Men
Yeah.
title, which is
Yeah, but Kitty Pryde is conducting an attack on Orcus, and she's dressed as a ninja. Kitty Pryde is a ninja. 2 thumbs up.
Dig it.
And then Storm, who's been getting the best treatment of all
Wait.
X-Men Red.
I thought Storm died. All right. All right. That's fine. We'll just keep it here. It's fine.
No, it was
X-Men
only
Red is
only
definitely-
Magneto.
I'm psyched for X-Men Red.
Dude, Storm
Heck
is
yeah.
one of the characters that has received the most love out of all the X-Men
Yes.
in like the
Yeah.
past recent years, and I love it.
I love it. And you know she's not going
She
to take the
should.
invasion of Krakoa lying down.
Which
So, yeah.
which book is Cy Spurrier writing? That's all I want to know, right? Because Kieran
Uncanny
Gillen-
Spider-Man.
Oh, then I'm triple. I'm buying that in triplicate. You got me. You sold me.
Mike's getting 10 variants of it. Just
Yeah,
so
yeah,
they
yeah.
keep that book
Somehow
going forever.
Legion is going to get roped into this, and I'm very excited about it.
Yes.
Great. All right. Well, thanks everyone for coming and talking a little bit of comic. One issue we talked a little for almost an hour, so you think it's probably pretty good. Maybe we need to ask Marvel to package this with the #1 issue, and then maybe it'll be worth $9.
Yes.
You also get this stream.
Mhm.
But after this, I might go read some Ultimate Comics. So everyone here, send me recommendations. If you're watching this later on, leave recommendations in the comments for Ultimate Universe series. And I just want to thank my guests, CJ, Mike, and Josh. Thank you very much for taking some time out of your schedules. And to everybody that watch here, we have a few comments that popped up. Kev, let's see. Can't wait to read all these on the Marvel. Yeah, look, hey, that app is
Smart, Kev. You're thinking
big
4
money
degrees
saver.
ahead of us.
The Uncanny Avengers. That was also one of the first series I picked up back in the day too. So I have a very emotional attachment to
Is
it.
Remender
I
back?
love the Rick Remender run.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Hey, it's Remender's back. Definitely picking it up. There's just listen. You're preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the choir also picks up most of these physically.
The choir here paid $8.99 for
Yeah.
like Ultimate Invasion. So like, Kev,
Hold
you
on,
don't
I guess.
understand what's
Let me
going
do. Josh, did you only get one Ultimate Invasion?
Yeah, I've got this guy, just
Okay.
the one.
Okay, so that one, they ran out of that one on my shop. I think they got delayed. They only got a few. They got delayed. So CJ, did you only pick up one copy?
I only picked up one. It's it's back in my room, but I got the Miles Morales cover by John Tyler
No.
Christopher because
The
I
red
miss
one?
Miles.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, you got this digitally, right?
I'll probably snag a physical when I go to the shop on Saturday, but yeah, I
Okay.
did digital all the way.
So
I'm a sucker.
I only got two because I got the blank cover.
Only two.
Nice.
Only two. I got the blank cover, and then I got the one. I guess it's Wolverine and somebody else that I don't know. One of the X-Men.
It was Jean Grey because she had a little bit of a short hair in the Ultimate Universe.
It's probably here. I have my pile of comics right behind me, but there's too many this week. I don't know if you guys saw.
There are so many. I don't blame you, Danny. There was it's a good week for comics. So yeah,
It was a good week. It was a good week. Real quick, Mike, did you get to read Hulk?
I started Hulk. I did not finish
Okay.
it. I will finish it come Sunday for
We'll
the
talk
show.
about
So
it.
don't worry about it. Don't worry about
So
it.
tune into IRCB. You can join the Discord, listen live to the show being recorded. This is the last live show before the break. Right?
Yeah. So we're gonna be on break for the month of July. So tomorrow's our last live show until August. We got a brand new regular showing up on tomorrow too. So like brand new face to IRCB. It's gonna be a blast.
Yeah, Sunday.
Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard if you can make it.
And opinions to close out the show. Opinions on Cinderblock Man.
I have no idea who that is.
Is
Yeah,
he like absorbing men? Not sure. But thanks everybody that watched live. Austin, I saw that was you. I didn't recognize your tag till you left. Kev, thanks for watching. And also Fanman6940. We got a few Twitch watchers, which I don't usually get. Maybe I should. Maybe Twitch is a nighttime game, and then the mornings are for YouTube when the old people are up.
It is.
So, all right. Thanks for watching, everyone. Go visit these folks. I'll put all their socials on the description of the video after this. So yeah, thanks for joining me, guys. See you later.
Yeah.
Thank you.